With the season quickly drawing to a close, the transfers you have left now are more precious than ever. So here are players to buy and avoid for Game Week 36. Okay, just before we get into the players to actually buy, I thought it would be worth just reminding ourselves of what the fixtures look like coming up. We've got 3 game weeks left of the season. It's all getting a bit emotional that it's nearly all over. And it's quite clear there are some teams with some standout fixtures, those being Brighton, Man City, Man United and Newcastle. So I think you can probably guess some of the players that are going to be in this video. For me, I know Chelsea have another double as well in 37, but Man City and Man United, I don't really think that counts as a double. They did just beat Bournemouth, but they conceded another goal. So defensively, they're still not looking great. And to be honest, Bournemouth could have had some more goals and a penalty as well. So for me, Chelsea are still a bit of an avoid. I've got Chilwell stinking out my team at the moment, not scoring me any points. And I'm looking for an excuse to get rid of him. And maybe it could be for one of the players coming up. Okay, my number one target for Game Week 36 is Isak from Newcastle. From my perspective, I think he's a bit of a safer option than Callum Wilson, purely because he has a better injury record. Whether he starts or not compared to Wilson, I think between the two of them, it's a bit of a lottery, to be honest. But I think it's safer to back the player that has a better injury record. And as for Callum Wilson, I feel really sorry for him, to be honest, because I think he's genuinely England's second best striker when he's on his day, but he just can't stay fit. And it also means I don't think, Eddie Howe is going to trust him for 90 minutes. He's really going to use him economically over the double in 36. So for me, Isak is probably going to get more minutes, and I think Wilson is a bigger risk of getting injured and then just not playing any minutes at all from that point onward. And looking at Isak's underlying numbers, 0.78 expected returns per 90, that's genuinely one of the best in the Premier League. It's right up there with the likes of Harry Kane and Mo Salah. And for 6.7 million, I don't think you can argue with that price. Leeds and Brighton in 36. Leeds away is a fixture you can easily see Newcastle scoring in. Obviously, Brighton at home is one of the toughest fixtures you can get in the league at the moment. But for me, I feel like Newcastle at St James's Park are a different beast. And they're free scoring, one of the most free scoring teams in the league at the moment. So I wouldn't doubt his ability to score against them. When he's got Leicester at home, another good fixture, a team that are on the ropes defensively, although fighting for their lives, I still think they're weak defensively. And then Chelsea away is the final fixture. Another great one. You could back Newcastle to do well in that game too. So for me, Alexander Isak, number one target. And then for me as well, it just makes sense to be tripled up on Newcastle. They've got a nice double in 36. I feel like defensively, they haven't been playing too badly. I know they've been conceding goals, but if you've watched Newcastle, they have not looked ropey defensively at all. The kind of goals they concede are just good goals, and I feel like it's almost variance of the time that they went so many games without conceding a goal. It's almost just the variance of chances they conceded but didn't concede a goal from. It's that sort of variance catching up with them. So I do feel like there are clean sheets to come towards the end of the season. Leeds, Brighton at home, 2 games you could see them keeping clean sheets in, and just in general they're attacking really well and scoring goals. So I think Isak's my number one, followed by Trippier, and then Callum Wilson. If you can get him into your team alongside Isak, say for example you own Isak already, I think that's a great alternative. For me, I've got Botman in my team at the moment, and I'm considering using my transfers to get rid of Botman, buy Callum Wilson, and replace Botman with another defender with a double. So yeah, that's sort of where my thinking is going. But I think, they got a double in 36. It absolutely makes sense to try and get yourself tripled up on them. Now, this might be obvious to some of you, and you might already have it. But the Brighton triple up, again, makes complete sense. They've got 2 more doubles coming up. They've still got the most fixtures of any team in the league, a double in 36 and a double in 37. And looking at their underlying numbers, I remember before the FA Cup semi-final against Man United, BBC was showing stats that Brighton literally have the best attacking stats in Europe. They're the team that creates the most chances in the whole of Europe at the moment. They're that good. Closely followed, of course, by Man City. But I do think Brighton is still ahead on that stat. And yeah, for me, my 3 of choice, I'd go for Estupiñán. He's nailed in defence, probably the most attacking of the defenders, and they're good defensively, so they've got a good chance of clean sheets. I'd have Solly March. I feel March v McAllister is very close. Obviously, McAllister's got the upside of free kick and penalties, but he can play a bit deeper, De Zerbi can push him back into that defensive midfield role, whereas Solly March, he's got a lot of, responsibilities in attack. His underlying numbers, non-penalty underlying numbers at least, are better than McAllister's. Then for me, Matoma is still the strongest. I know he's gone through a patch of games where he hasn't scored, but he still looked just as dangerous as he has done. So for me, triple up on Brighton, and those are my 3 of choice. Finally, on players to buy is David De Gea, and you'll see later on who you might have in your team that I'd suggest replacing him with. For me, he's probably the best goalkeeper in the game going forward, especially because I've already mentioned being tripled up on Newcastle was a good idea, and I haven't mentioned Nick Pope as the best option. That's because I think David De Gea is the best goalkeeper in the game for the run-in. For me, Man United are looking really good defensively. I know they conceded to Brighton late on, but it's a 99th minute penalty. I don't think you can necessarily say they were bad defensively to concede that one. It was kind of a Luke Shaw end of game mistake as opposed to really being poor defensively. Shaw and Lindelof, in my opinion, have made a really good partnership, and that will continue for the rest of the season. And just in general, they've kept the most clean sheets of any team in the Premier League. They've got 15 so far. They're obviously still to play this weekend when I'm recording this video. So we'll see what happens in that game against West Ham. But yeah, I think Man United are looking really strong. And I've mentioned Ederson. De Gea actually makes saves in a game. He averages 2 saves per game. And that would suggest to me that the games that he, may concede in are games that he's likely to get saves bonus. And the games, where he makes less saves, he's likely to keep the ball out of the net and get a clean sheet. So yeah, for me, I think David De Gea is the strongest goalkeeper pick in the game. And just looking at fixtures, they're great. Wolves at home, that's a traditional, you'd sort of bank on a clean sheet in that one. Bournemouth away and Chelsea at home. Bournemouth away is a good fixture. Chelsea at home, I think Man United Chelsea is literally the most nil-nil fixture in Premier League history. So for me, there's only one way I see that going at the moment. And Fulham at home on the final day. Yes, they may have Mitrovic back, but I also feel like, Man United will probably still have something to play for in that game. So for me, I think David De Gea is looking like the strongest goalkeeping option going forwards. Now, if you are an Ederson owner, I will definitely count you as unlucky because the expected goals conceded that Man City have had in their last, 10 games have all been below 1. And in all those games, Ederson has conceded 1 or more goals. So he is probably one of the most frustrating players you can imagine to own. And realistically, when you picked him at the point where you decided to go with him, he was a good pick, right? Looking at the fixtures that Man City had, they had double game weeks, great fixtures, coming out your ears. So Ederson looked like a great option. But it just hasn't come to fruition. And for me, I think he's worth selling. Even beyond avoiding, I think I'd sell him. He barely makes 1 save per game. So when he does concede that goal, there's nothing else for him. Whereas you could go for a cheaper keeper that keeps like an average level of clean sheets, but makes saves every game. He's going to score you more points than Ederson. And when he's 5.4 million, I really do think you could go for someone much better and much cheaper. Maybe De Gea, who I've suggested before. And yeah, barely makes 1 save per game, and he's got less than, 1 clean sheet in 3 games. So for me, I just can't see where the points are coming from. Everton away, that looks like a Man City clean sheet, doesn't it? But so did Leeds at home, just gone, and they conceded. So yeah, that's some of those fixtures. Chelsea at home, that could be the clean sheet fixture. Then you got Brighton and Brentford, 2 teams that are really good. They're at their home grounds, and they could score goals against Man City. So for that reason, I'm not sure where Ederson's future points are going to come from. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Let me know what you think of those picks in the comments and if there are any players that I missed. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel below, and I'll catch you in the next video.